Hello everyone, I kissed from Uncle Kronoloji, lit the tea. Before delving into Scandinavian mythology, I will share this video with you. The very short history of the Vikings tells where their names came from and what followed. They are descendants of the Varangians and the Normans. I will briefly touch on their cultures, and in the subsequent videos I will explain the elements and mythology of Scandinavia. Firstly, the origin of the name Viking is from the Old Norse Vik, river, and even whip in Old English. It is thought to be produced from the calm procrastination written with W. Norse is another name. It is also derived from Nord, the word for north in Old Norse. In early Scandinavian languages, the word Vikinger means pirate. This word refers to Vikings or Norse. The word of Viking actually not to define their race or nationality, it also includes the northern Germans, who are Danes, Norwegians, Swedes, or other Spanish peoples. It was given to the Spaniards to define their people. All northern Germans were also considered for this mind during the Viking Age. The ancestors of the Vikings are the ancient Germanic peoples. The language families come from the people anyway, and they consist of Scandinavian languages related to the Germanic language family. They are Vikings, a seafaring tribe. They conquered many places in northern Europe between 8th and 11th centuries, spending most of their lives in maritime. They also went up to England, the north of France, Paris, and we are in Andalusia.
They had looted.
Along with these mines, they have destroyed many monasteries and buildings. Monks who witnessed the events and survived spread to various regions of Europe. From their narrations and transmissions, of course, these narratives have been dramatically and tragically conveyed for centuries and created a hostility and fear. We generally know about them. They describe themselves as a crude, primitive tribe far from civilization. As a result of their influence, Europeans have long been indifferent to Viking culture.
It is understood that they stayed. We said that they were a nomadic and warrior tribes. Vikings actually do not have a written tradition. The trace of culture is verbal. Along with the culture, we can find some archaeological acts, war tools, and ship remains. Despite the weakness of written sources and negativity in Western sources, the data we have shows that the Vikings actually accumulated a lot of material culture. These sailors stayed in a large part of Europe. They almost conquered and looted and lived between the 8th and 11th centuries and experienced its difficulty. It's a people who could set a trap. Among these, as I said, England, France, many lands in today's Germany. Sometimes it reaches up to the Caspian region. In the Eurasian region, the looting has reached up to points 10. If you're curious, yes, there are wars of Vikings and Khazars. And despite losing the first war, in the second war, Vikings record, and that's their latest point of progress. Of course, the Vikings influenced the Russians, the Slavs, and there are those who look at the examinations with a wiki eye. The early pagan belief culture of the Slavs is mostly nourished from the Viking culture. Now the Vikings, if we will enter the Vajags, who are Swedish with a branch. In the 11th century they spread to the east, even reaching the Black Sea and Iran. And many of them, as I said, settled in Slav, that is in Russia, in Novgorod, and in Ukraine, in Kiev. And even they are accepted as the founders of the Kiev Principality. Trains Rui Kaneda, who comes from their lineage, also rules in Russia until the 16th century. Normans, one of the most important branches of the Vikings. The Normans speak French. They live in the Normandy region of France. They are tribes from Denmark and Norway. These Normans mean the people of the north, men of the north, Normans. A skilled sailor and warrior who has embarked on many expeditions to the west, in meaning there is a person, and they colonized Iceland, Greenland, and the coasts of Canada. Their ship formed like a dragon's head.
They ate and sailed.
And kneaded with paddles, a whimsical one, longboats. They also went to Britain. They looted many monasteries and obtained many treasures. In fact, the reasons why Westerners shouldn't fear them, websites and a bit of their bad images, of course it also stems from the loots they've done. You see forests rising up from the sea along the river. In 845 at Virkov and also in the year of 885, 2 times attacks to Paris, governor of Louvre, Burgos, Lisbon, Seville, certain parts of Italy like shadows of Polos. Intense invasions and raids were organized. The most known commander, Ragnar, later Rollo in the year 9 and 10, settled in the region named Normandy. Moanda stayed here for centuries. Fatih William interfered with the affairs of England, but Ragnar later lost in a battle and was captured.
This is for
Was killed.
torture.
The tragic end of Ragnar, whom we know from the Viking series. If we briefly go into his conquests, geographically speaking, they advanced as far as the west of Byzantium, even assimilated with Byzantium and advanced to Varek, formed their guards, the Varek Vikings. He warms up to the Eastern Roman Empire a lot. A Viking era occurred in Europe between the advanced 8th and 11th centuries. Right now, we already know that Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland and their national teams are giving us quite a hard time for the money they've taken. It comes from its lineage. The Normans from this lineage also conquered Great Britain in the 11th century, and an Anglo-Saxon era was initiated, claimed to be the strongest dynasty in England, which is still ongoing. To put it very briefly, at funerals they generally carry their dead on wooden. They burn it by placing it in a boat filled with soil. Unlike the Bloods, the Vikings don't wear horned helmets or winged chest. These are generally from Marvel's comic books or even in some movies. Titles of the South Germanic people identified with comic books. In fact, these are about Vikings.
They go to war as they are, with their shields and axes naked. Even Vikings don't care if it's men or women. There is no gender discrimination in society. Battle is fought in a unified manner in front of the society. Only their chiefs are of great importance. They determine their chief themselves. It emerges from the people, one with the right of the sword. Of course, the Vikings, it has very little tolerance for some people, so they can be a bit racist. Intermarriages with other communities.
Marriage is too much.
They are not a group of people who approve. Actually, we said they don't use muscle, but yes, it's used. They have had leaders and later kings. They have also transitioned to a monarchy like a kingdom. Ranked, wealthy commanders, they put on these helmets so that the commander can be distinguished on the battlefield and his orders can be heard more clearly. But he doesn't use a title as presumed. The reflections in mythology come from the geographies they lived in. This kind of thing happens. Besides these, of course, there is also the influence of Christianity in the Eastern Rome, as Normans later become Christians. Although the influence of Catholicism is visible, it intermingles with these two religions through cultural exchange.
they've left some effects. For them, heaven is a warm place because they live in the north. After that, many things, repentance, sea, ships, and it is related to the sky. It has been shaped according to the climatic conditions of the geography they live. That's all from me for today. I just wanted to give a brief introduction to the short history of the Vikings. For now, in the future, we will examine their mythology and some of their legends and epics. That's all for today. I am off to the Ankara committee. Once upon a time, I wish